Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 70 of the All Dolphins podcast. 70. Omar, it's flying by. Today's episode dedicated or in honor of former 2008 third round pick out of Hampton University,
Kendall Langford.
Kendall Langford. Very, very good 3-4 defensive end who played a not insignificant part in the Dolphins' run to the AFC's title that particular season, which sadly is the last time the Dolphins win a division title.
Kendall was a very good player for the Miami Dolphins, a good draft pick, HBCU product, as you mentioned. Not only that, but he served this summer as one of the minority coaching interns. He actually worked on the field with the defensive linemen, and then he transitioned to the other half of the internship, was where he worked in the front office with the organization. As I've known Kendall since he got drafted here, and as I've told him, he's more needed in the front office. And these NFL teams, they desperately and have done a poor job of getting former players into the scouting and front office roles. And I think that there's a huge void there. This league is being absolutely inundated and overridden with analytics and science. And I think that there's a human element to the game that you cannot correlate with analytics and science that a lot of those teams are losing right now.
Absolutely agree. And I'm with you. I'm not a huge fan of analytics. It's too much. And there's certain sports, because what analytics do not measure one very, very important factor in certain team sports. Like in baseball, I totally get it. Like hockey is very big on analytics as well, and football is too. The word is intangibles.
Yeah.
There are certain guys whose contributions go beyond pure numbers. So
absolutely. And analytics can't tell you about the look in a guy's eyes or the confidence. I was going over some of the film that I had on my phone because I've got a ridiculous amount of film on my phone and I need to clean it out so I can actually have usage. And I keep talking about this confidence injection that Austin Jackson has gotten. There's a mind mojo that has happened to him where he's clearly spoken to a sports psychologist or a confidence guru, or I don't know what it was, but he was saying a sentence like, he was saying it like, I'm curious to see how successful we're going to, no, I'm confident. Then he corrected himself. I'm confident about how successful we're going to be on Sunday when it comes to running the ball. And just that little shift can make the difference. I'm a big fan of Kendall Lamb from not just the performance that he's made, but his mindset of always playing as a guy with a chip on the shoulder, where he told us a story about his grandfather not believing that he was going to make it in the NFL. And here he is as an undrafted player 8 years later. And give you a perfect example. Mike McDaniel said, if you want to get the best out of Tyreek Hill, make it a competition. Whatever it is, make it a competition, and you will get the best out of him. Make him feel like it's a competition, or feel like somebody's underrating him or over, or make him feel slighted, chip on his shoulder. And I used to love the days back when I believe it was the Tony Sparano era. Remember when we had the locker room and it was like had card tables and domino tables and guys got into those games because it was their locker room and nobody was policing it. The best players were generally the most competitive when it came to everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Jason Taylor, dominoes, tonks, spades, it didn't matter. They were there. Joey Porter. The best players, they are competitive when it comes, if it's throwing a quarter against the wall, they're competitive. And you just see the height of their competitive nature rise, no matter what it is. You could be playing tic-tac-toe and they just become extremely competitive. Analytics can't tell you those things.
No, now I'll give you another one that to me where the weaknesses of analytics or relying solely on analytics come into play. For example, a running back on a running play, you will see this like yards before contact and all that. Well, that doesn't measure also if your running back made the right cut, make the right read on where the hole is. And then another example, drop passes percentage for a wide receiver. Well, who decides whether it's a drop pass or not?
Oh, yes, I'm absolutely with you. You know what? Another stat that really bothers me, and I wish that somebody would keep real good analytical calculations of it. Yards by PI. Quarterbacks should be tracked for it. Receivers should be tracked for it. Quarterbacks should be tracked for it. Because I was watching that Kansas City game against the Lions, and Patrick Mahomes chunked it down the field 50 yards. And I always think that that's a favorable play. You got one-on-one coverage, no safety help, chuck it down the field. Worst case scenario, it's an incompletion. Best case scenario, the guy catches the ball. A very likely probability the cornerback is going to be called for PI just because he's in a panic state. So, and I've always said that should be a statistic that is added up, and there should be a PI leader in the NFL from quarterbacks and wide receivers. And I'm talking, you can get 40, 50 yards per chunk play on a PI call.
No, absolutely. So, and before, I think we're doing fan questions today. Before we get to that, my last one, and also on deep passes, the worst actual outcome for the offense is a pick. But if it's third and long for third and medium distance where you're going to punt on fourth down regardless, if you chuck it deep, even if it's picked off, it's a punt. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I
hear you. I'm with you there. We're right here. We're simpatico.
I see it so often, and I'm like, why don't you just throw that anyway? But that's besides the point.
We digress.
Let's get you ready for your Sunday's matchup between the season opener, the Miami Dolphins, and the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm always going to struggle to call them the Los Angeles Chargers because, gosh darn it, they've been taken from their rightful home of San Diego. Mm-hmm. I hope that they one day return to San Diego and don't second-class citizens in LA. Showtime, good follower. Yes. Love his insight. He asks, if Kendall Lamb exceeds expectations, do you sit Terron for an extended time? I'll let you lead.
No. I mean, unless Kendall Lamb is Terron Armstead, reincarnated. Okay. Obviously, you don't rush him back and take the chance of whatever is ailing him, getting worse, and then it drags on for the whole season. But no, Terron Armstead's Terron Armstead. So if you can bring him back without an unreasonable risk of him getting injured again, you bring him back when he's ready to go.
I hate the fact that I've, in my opinion, hyped Kendall Lamb up a lot because I know the success rate of guys that I hype up a lot. Dolphin fans will just beat me to death unless they're like Pro Bowl players. Understand, Kendall Lamb came out of nowhere for me to the point where I was like, holy crap, there was a army of underwhelming names and bodies that were there on the offensive line. And from practice one, Kendall Lamb said, this is my job, and owned it. And then I was like, well, why is he rotating back from left to right? And then Kendall Lamb's like, hey, they didn't want me to do that. I requested that because that's how I get myself ready for the season, because I never know when I'm going to have to go in and play right tackle.
All right.
This is probably, arguably, in my opinion, and Dolphin fans are going to hold me to this, this is going to be a new Legadou Nene, new Jesse Davis situation. This is arguably the best swing tackle that I have seen, not starter. I got you. The best swing tackle I've seen in a Dolphins uniform probably my entire duration here, 15 years.
Whoa.
Now, I'm not saying that he's starter material. I'm not saying he's ready to go in there and steal somebody's job like I did back when Jesse Davis back in 2017, when Jesse Davis stole somebody's job and kept it for 5 years. But that's besides the point. We're not going to defend ourselves on Jesse Davis here. But I can't think of anybody who's been a swing tackle who's been better than Kendall Lamb. And keep in mind, this is a guy who has entered the league from Appalachian State as an undrafted player and has made a 53-man roster every year for the last 8 years. Not practice squad, call up, go down, practice squad, call up, go down. And he's only here because the Kansas City Chiefs felt like they could, they had a need and they could sneak him on the practice squad. And I believe the Dolphins poached him. Or
remember, they didn't sign him up for practice squad. You sure you're not thinking about Terron Christian getting poached getting signed off Kansas City? I thought Kendall Lamb came from somewhere else. I could be wrong there, but
I'll look it up. Where I might be thinking about Terron Christian. I apologize.
That's all good.
Let me look up Kendall Lamb's bio. But my point is, he's very good. He's very good in terms of I'm confident that he can hold it down for a good 3-week period. And
no, but there's a difference between holding it down and playing at Terron Armstead level.
Absolutely.
And let's be realistic.
Dichi comes from the Detroit Lions.
Kendall Lamb, okay. No, and if we need to be realistic, it's like, yeah, you and I were both confident Kendall Lamb can get the job done, but there's a difference between getting the job done and like being the tone setter, the big piece on the offensive line. And obviously, if he gets to that point, then the next question doesn't become, do you sit Armstead longer enough? Is how do you get Kendall Lamb somewhere else in the lineup if he performs?
I don't think he could play anywhere else on the lineup. I don't think he could play guard.
I'm doing the hypothetical of if you get to a point where he's playing so well that you have to consider holding Terron Armstead even though he's ready, then you have to maybe like figure out, okay, does he go to right tackle? We move Austin inside or whatever. My point being is the expectation need to be realistic with the hope and the expectation he's going to do a good job.
Mm-hmm. Juan Duarte wants to know, who do you think will be the most impactful player on Sunday?
Isn't it always the quarterback? I mean,
it's not. It's Tyreek Hill. What are you talking about? Quarterback. It's Tyreek.
Okay.
Tyreek sets the table for everybody.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, Tua will be okay without Tyreek, but Tyreek is who sets it off. Tyreek impacts every single element of the offense.
That's fair. The counter to that is there are things the defense can do to take away Tyreek, but Tua's going to have the ball in his hands every single play.
Okay, and if the things that the defense does to take away Tyreek, that just opens up the run game. It opens up Jalen Waddle. It opens up, not really tight end, but Braxton Berrios.
Like Durham Smythe, come on, man.
No disrespect, Durham. Give me Durham's numbers this year. I'm gonna throw in a Twitter question.
Oh, okay. Was that for the fans? Is that for the fans, or you want me to guess my numbers?
Yeah, I want you to guess your numbers.
Okay, 33, 452, 3.
Okay, I can take that. I can accept that. Okay. I think that's a good projection.
Quick other point also. I think the Dolphins would win this game more on defense than they would on offense. So maybe the one player who's going to have to make the biggest impact has to be somebody on defense. So maybe does that become Javon Holland? Does that become Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips disrupting Justin Herbert?
I'm putting it on Christian Wilkins from this standpoint. The Chargers want to do what the Miami Dolphins want to do. They want to prove that they can run the ball, become a more balanced team. I'm sure going into that game that the emphasis is going to be placed on let's juice up the run game, and with Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly, stop it choke it out. And that's what I expect from Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, and Raekwon Davis.
Except they did last year, and the Chargers still have more than 400 yards. I mean, Christian Wilkins was an absolute bear in that game last year, and it didn't stop the offense. So yeah, it's tough to pinpoint one guy. I think your call of Tyreek is very good. I think to me maybe Javon Holland or Phillips or Chubb. There's many guys involved here.
John G asks a very important question. He points out that there are only 6 players who are in the 30-plus club on the roster, with Justin Bethel being the oldest at 33. Do you think a young coach would benefit more from having more veteran leaders in the locker room? Let me begin this by answering. I don't think age makes you a leader. I've been in the locker room, and I could tell you, leaders stick out like a sore thumb. They are absolutely in your face. I personally believe that this is the best leadership unit that the Dolphins have had in over a decade. I'm not even willing to debate it with you, just because I thought
be that way.
I have thought that they have had poor leadership for eons, probably after Jason Taylor's exit, with the exception of the rare Ryan Fitzpatrick's of the world. There just wasn't really guys that would step up and be leaders. And
Brandon Albert was a good leader.
Yes, I damn sure know Ndamukong Suh was not a good leader. But yeah, look at that face. Look at that face.
Cameron Wake wasn't a leader.
Cameron Wake wasn't a leader. And I'm glad you say that, because a lot of people take offense when I say that. Cameron Wake was not a leader. None of those linebackers were leaders. So this is a very young team. I've seen younger with the Dolphins, but they're a young team, but they've got leadership at the right spots. I watched Tyreek Hill call and lead a team meeting Friday for a unit group work. And he was just like, let's go get it in. Let's take care of it now. And that's what leaders do, man. I've always been a big proponent of the Leadership Council. I think that's important. I think that Mike McDaniel has one. He goes to it. He leans on it. And he's even said, I let my locker room decide a lot of things. In fact, he said, I'll let my locker room decide who's the left guard. You remember when he said that?
Yeah.
Come on. There are no takebacks on that.
But it's a metaphor. It's not like literally. I mean, it's not like he's going around going, "Okay, guys, who's going to be the starting left guard? We'll take a vote." I mean,
I'm not saying the whole locker room.
It's a vibe thing, type of thing.
I'm not saying the whole locker room.
Okay.
I'm saying the leaders of the locker room. Like, you don't think Terron Armstead has a vote? Tua, vote?
Ultimately, it's going to be McDaniel's decision. But I think if every teammate, it shows a lack of confidence in them. If everybody says it's got to be, for example, Isaiah Wynn, and he wanted to go with Liam Eichenberg, and if all of his leaders tell him it's got to be Isaiah Wynn, well, obviously he realizes there's a confidence void in Eichenberg, so I got to go with Wynn. So I don't think it's. I mean, we can dance around the definition here.
But we've been here with coaches who I vividly remember the wide receiver coup of 2014, where all of the wide receivers went to Joe Philbin in a meeting and said, Joe, the final month of the season, we'd rather Matt Moore as our starting quarterback over Ryan Tannehill. And this is what we feel we need to do to make it to the playoffs. And the receivers went up there on behalf of themselves and the defense. And Joe Philbin was like, thanks, but no thanks. And then banished all the wide receivers the next year.
Yeah. Who was that? Was that Mike Wallace, Brandon Gibson? Was that those guys?
That was before the Brandon Gibson speaking for Mike Wallace incident.
Yes.
Yeah, that was, and I mean, and I understand it, but remember we covered the Tony Sperano era when the team and the locker room said to him, we want to go with Chad Pennington. We don't want to ride with Chad Henne. And it lasted for all of 2 snaps.
Oh, hey, when are you talking about? To my 2009?
I think
Pennington came in 2008 in August. Remember?
Yes, no. No, he got hurt. He was back. I think it was 2014. Pennington Henne was an established starter.
Pennington was way gone by then, by 2014.
Who? Which one?
Pennington by 2014 was way. I think
I'm sorry. Oh no, my bad. I'm thinking a different regime. It was 2010, I think.
Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. It was a game. It might have been against Tennessee.
It was Tennessee. And the locker room came to him and said, "We want Pennington to be our starter," and he responded accordingly. And it didn't last very long. Lasted all of 2 snaps.
Yeah.
But we've seen so many coaches who either do it or don't respond to locker room leadership. And I think it's a very important thing, especially in this day and age of players, for your survival. And I think Mike McDaniels gets it.
The only point I will add to what you said, and I agree with everything you said, the only point I will add is who's the biggest leader on defense? It's Christian Wilkins, and he's 25, 26. So age is not necessarily an issue, like you said.
Oh, absolutely not. I agree with you. I don't think age is an issue at all. Do you need a strong leadership presence? And a lot of times, do the older players help you with that? Yes. Sure. But this is not one of those cases where you need a strong leadership presence. I don't think you need a leader. There isn't a single room I can't tell you that there isn't a leader in. From Raheem Mostert to Tyreek Hill to Durham Smythe to Terron Armstead, Christian Wilkins, linebacker. Okay, Bradley Chubb. I forget about the outside guys.
Okay.
Yeah, you this on Bradley.
I don't know. I don't know if I've pegged him yet to be that kind of guy. I don't know, and I don't know that there's an alpha guy linebacker yet with either Chubb Phillips, Baker David Long Jr., even Duke Riley, Van Ginkel. So I'm not sure there's a clear-cut guy there like there is at other positions.
Yes, there was Alain and Roberts. We'll see who steps up this year. Joe Ray 1234, interesting name. He says, "I have an if and a when question. This is new for me, so bear with me here. An if and a when.
Okay.
If Cam Smith earns Fangio's trust and when Ramsey returns, could the best lineup for the Dolphins be the line of X, Smith on the outside, Cater at slot, and put Ramsey at safety with Holland?" Boy, I know you love this question.
Do I even need to answer it? Do I even need to answer it?
Go for it, please, dude.
The answer is yes. Yes, I do.
The answer is no. And Mike, it's no because Mike McDaniel told you no.
He didn't tell me no. Mike McDaniel did not tell me no, did not tell me yes. Wait a second, or did he?
Yes, he was like,
no, he didn't say no. He just said Jalen Ramsey's a great cornerback.
Yeah.
Okay.
And something like, I wouldn't want him to do anything other than what he's great at. Like,
okay, but that wasn't, well, the question wasn't whether we expect the Dolphins to do that. The question was whether that would be the best lineup in the secondary for the Dolphins. And to me, I think it's pretty clearly a yes.
It's not. It's a no. It's a no.
Omar's wrong, but that's cool.
Ramsey's a Hall of Fame caliber cornerback. Asking him to play safety would be devaluing him. Yes, you need to find a safety. That's a problem that you could address with Nick Needham, not a Jalen Ramsey. Like you could find somebody to play that role that allows Javon Holland to be the rover with Nick Needham. You don't have to do it with Jalen Ramsey. Could Jalen Ramsey line up as a rover and defend a Travis Kelce? Absolutely. That could be a game plan specific position. But lining up 700 snaps as a safety is just ridiculous. Not now. Maybe when he's in his late 30s and he can do a Charles Woodson-esque move back to safety, cool. But now, absolutely not. While he could still cover corner or wide receivers, no. Let the man do what he's good at.
Again, but I think the point of the question is what's the optimum lineup in the secondary? And I think what you would lose in value Ramsey going to cornerback, from cornerback to safety, I think you would make up in having that presence there, and then having Cam Smith. Again, the question was the hypothetical of he reaches that point where he's the dude we saw at his peak in training camp. And I think that's debatable. I respect we absolutely can agree to disagree. But I don't think
I don't know what Jalen Ramsey is. I saw him for 2 practices. 2.
You know who he is. I mean, you know the dude can cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw him for 2 practices.
Okay, next, as our friend Drew would say, next question.
Lloyd Hellbrun, he's got. I told him they didn't ask anything, and boy, is he bringing it today.
Oh boy.
Buckle up, because this is one that's going to require a lot of political correctness here.
Oh boy,
I'm getting really tired of these injuries the last 2 seasons. Since you guys are unafraid of uncomfortable topics, when are we going to take a hard look at the training and medical staff? I'll let you have the lead on this.
Gee, thanks. I'm not sure I'm equipped at this point to like answer that question, because I would have to like sit down, document every injury and see the nature of it.
They got a lot of injuries though.
I didn't know, but they do. But it's the NFL, and are they all a whole bunch of soft tissue injuries? Is their practice routine such that it puts an undue stress on the players? You know, soft tissue stuff.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head because I agree with your statement. Not that I'm saying it's their practice. I think this is the country club-esque practice that I've ever seen. The schedule, the routine, all of training camp, and understand, and you predate me when they did 2-a-days and 2 days of hitting.
Yeah.
So, and I actually covered that as well. They've started practicing some serious like 2-hour practices this week. Before that, if they went 90 minutes.
Early on in camp is what they did.
Yeah. If they went 90 minutes, I'd be shocked.
But I think that's a trend around the NFL, though, that they don't practice quite as much
and I think this leads into the sports science of it all. Whereas now, and people have to understand, now they have GPS trackers on players. They track their speed, they track their heart rate, they track every goddamn thing. Yep. And literally, they know when a guy's legs are not there anymore. So they know exactly at what point are we not getting the best out of practice. They know exactly at what point is the rate of injuries escalating up if we continue to go practice. Mike McDaniel is a big analytics and sports science guy, which is Steve Ross is in love and obsessed with that stuff. And props to them if that's what they believe in. So they are doing what they believe is in the best interest of having the healthiest team in week 17, 18.
Correct.
Now, does that excuse the nature of physical brutality of the NFL? No, it doesn't, because, oh my God, this is such a monster of a sport that, you know, all it takes is one hit. Like you see it. It's car crash every damn play. Yeah. So I don't know if there are any easy answers. We will know the answer when we get to week 17.
No, I agree. And the point I would make, and again, if you look at the nature of the injuries, first of all, the guys who come into camp, they all look like they worked on their bodies in the off season. And I think the Dolphins take that very seriously. And I think that's
absolutely.
And in terms of the players who are habitually injured with soft tissue stuff, Devontae Parker's gone. And by the way, he's on the injury report this week for week 1 for the Patriots. Outside of that, David Long Jr., if you want to complain about one thing in terms of the injuries in the Dolphins, is they do sign a lot of guys with injury histories. And when they come here, Terron Armstead being a good example, you can't say, well, oh, what bad luck this guy got hurt. Well, unfortunately, that happens all the time. David Long Jr. has had hamstring issues the past 2 years with the Titans. If that surfaces again in 2023, is that an issue of the training staff and the doctor, or is that an issue of the Dolphins signing a guy who has that in his background and should expect to have that happen again? So no, I'm not. I don't think I buy the notion of the training staff and the medical staff need to be examined or reevaluated. I don't think it's quite that simple.
I do worry about the level of injuries that they've had at the very beginning of the season. And could it just be just bad luck now and you'll get lucky later on in the year? Yeah, that's how the football gods work. Will Mims asks, how many Pro Bowlers do we have in the front seven this year? Why specifically the front seven?
I'm going to go two. I'm going to go one of Phillips or Chubb, and I'm going to go Christian gets to the Pro Bowl this year.
Oh, look at you. Okay, bold prediction. That means Christian going to get that taggity tag.
That's funny.
Jay Chizat
asks, whoa. Excuse me, Mr. Kelly.
Zero.
Hey, wow.
I was trying to avoid it, but you made me answer the question like, yeah, nah.
Mr. Negative is back.
Damn, come on, front seven, man.
Chubb made it last year, and Wilkins was an alternate.
Yeah, Wilkins probably gonna get on because defensive linemen, they're all gonna vote for him because they want him to get paid so that he can raise the bar for everybody else. And I'm not saying that he's not gonna earn it, because I think Christian Wilkins has shown you he's gotten better every single season. And he's gonna get better this season. Like, okay. How much better?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
How much better? I don't know. But I know Christian's gonna get paid, and my hope is that he stays healthy, because I would hate for something to happen. I know the organization will take care of him, but it's a whole different ball game when you got potentially $50 million in guaranteed money sitting over here, and you turn that down to play on 10.7. There's a lot of risk associated with it. So,
okay, and this is the part where I can just see somebody in the comments saying, "Well, wait a second, Poupart," or whatever the clever names that they use sometimes to insult my opinions. Insult the opinions. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
No, I never heard.
Oh yeah, no, I get that actually quite a bit. This is the part where somebody's going to point out that I said that Christian Wilkins, at this point, I wasn't sure deserved the really big number, because unlike other defensive tackles, he has not yet been a major factor in the pass rush. Well, so why are you saying now he's going to make the Pro Bowl when it does require sack numbers? That's because I need to see it for the Dolphins to give him that huge contract, and I have faith in Wilkins that he is going to get that done. That's how I reconcile the two. Go ahead.
There you go, covering your bases, and I agree with you. I don't root against Christian Wilkins. I agree 1,000% with you. Your production says $16 million a year. You want 18.5, 19 million a year. You got to get sacks for that. And he'll probably go get sacks and now demand 20 a year. And Dolphin fans will be crying, why didn't you pay the man? It's a risk reward situation. Linka Dunkums asks, do you expect more packages with Ingold for additional pass protection with Armstead out?
No, that is
Ingold is playing 40 snaps a game. Armstead or not, Ingold is going to be a secret weapon for this team. I see him as a hell of a matchup threat. Whatever you decide you're going to put on the field, I'm going to have Alec Ingold do the opposite. And he's such a Swiss Army knife that can do everything. And I'm obsessed with him and his utilization. I think he's going to bring the fullback position back.
To paraphrase my former Dolphin Digest colleague, Andy Cohen, you can never have too much Alec Ingold.
Never heard it before.
How it relate to that? So I tell the story. It relate to Dan Marino, and as we were discussing what we should have in the publication.
Okay, yeah.
And Andy's point was always, you can never have too much Dan Marino.
That is true. Final question. Cooper asks, how important really is the first game I'm sure there are going to be lots of talk immediately by the media about the Dolphins' expectations and back to the draft for the quarterback. Man, you're assuming that they're going to lose. How much is this first game useful for insight into how the Fins will play?
God, I love that question. I love that question. May I tackle it first?
Please do.
I love that question. 2 quick points I want to make. Thomas Morstead, now of the Jets, had a great tweet or an X or whatever they're called now, or a post on X, saying about the Jets season opener against the Bills on Monday night. Basically, folks, chill out. If we win against Buffalo on Monday night, doesn't mean we're going to the Super Bowl. If we lose against Buffalo on Monday night, doesn't mean we're not making the playoffs. Same applies to the Dolphins. It's one game. And I will make the argument that a win would mean a hell of a lot more for the Dolphins in terms of significance than a loss would be damaging. Okay, you're starting on the road against a team that made the playoffs last year. You don't have your starting left tackle. If you lose the game, it's one game early on. If you win the game, despite those circumstances, nobody should overreact and say Super Bowl, here we come. But I think that puts a stamp on Dolphins are absolutely completely legit. Whereas if they lose, it doesn't to me have that kind of significance again, because you're on the road against a very good team, unless of course they get blown out 49-3, at which point it would be like, whoa.
Yeah, even if they get blown out 49-3, I'm sure there's going to be a common thread or theme or issue that needs to be addressed, and that's part of the NFL. Every week, based on injuries, there's issues that need to be addressed, matchups that are challenging, how many matchups are favorable on your end versus the opposite direction. So I'm excited to see what happens. Wish them the best of luck. Do you want to do a prediction here? Or do you want to do? We only got a minute left, so let's not.
No, I will make this point. Whether I have a prediction that's going to be coming out on alldolphins.com or is actually already out, since this is going to be posted after. So I encourage you, want another prediction, check out alldolphins.com in my game preview, setting the stage for the Dolphin Charger Week 1 matchup. But before, not counting last year, the 2 previous times the Dolphins made the playoffs, they started like 1-4 or 2-4. So again, the story of this season is not written in game 1. Just like anybody dismissing the Chiefs because they lost opener on Thursday night, probably not a good idea. So
yeah.
Anyway, Omar, that's going to wrap it up.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Download, share, subscribe, like, tell a friend. We're on the Fans First Sports Network under Miami Dolphins Insider for your audio podcast, on YouTube, All Dolphins Podcast. And that's going to wrap it up. Omar, as always.
See you tomorrow.